You want out of the rat race, so you dream about quitting your job. But quitting is not the exit. The real exit is having money coming in whether you work or not, and you build that while you're still working. If you want to get out of the rat race, I'm going to tell you exactly what I'd do if I were starting over with that goal. Most people think getting out means one of four things: quit and figure it out, start a side hustle, cut expenses down to nothing, or wait 30 years for your investments to grow. And I get it, those feel like options, but none of them actually get you out on a timeline that matters. What actually works is building income while your job is still paying your bills using a system, not guesswork. I've created the deal filter system, and it's what tells you which deals are actually worth doing. Today we're going to cover what your real exit number looks like, why the common paths don't work, and what a real timeline actually looks like when you follow this system. Most people never sit down and figure out what leaving their job would actually take. So it stays this big, vague thing in their head. Not a plan, just a feeling. And when you don't know the number, it's easy to assume it's out of reach, so you stop looking at all. Here's what I want you to understand. The number that replaces your paycheck is almost always lower than your salary, sometimes a lot lower. Let me show you exactly how. Let's say you're making $85,000 a year, close to the national median. That looks like a number you'd need to replace, but it's not. Start with taxes, federal, state, Social Security, Medicare. Once all of that comes out, you're not taking home $85,000. You're taking home somewhere around $65,000 to $68,000, depending on your state and how you're filing. Now take away what it actually cost you to keep that job, your commute, your gas, your parking, a transit pass maybe. That's often $150 to $300 a month. Work clothes and the upkeep, that comes to another $50 to $100 a month, unless you're a clothes horse, but you get the drift. Lunch is out, coffee, the stuff you buy because you rushed out of the house, another $150 to $250 a month. And if you've got childcare tied specifically to your work hours, that's on top of all of it. Add up the commute, the clothes, and the food, and you're looking at $350 to $650 a month just to keep showing up for your job. That's $4,200 to $7,800 a year gone the moment you no longer need the job. So take that $65,000 to $68,000 take home, subtract the $4,200 to $7,800, and your real number lands at $58,000 to $62,000, not $85,000. That's the actual income you need to walk away. Once you know that number, this stops being a feeling and starts being something you can actually build toward. So, if the number is smaller than people think, why isn't everyone already doing this? Because most people are trying to get there the wrong way. Let's go through the common paths. A side hustle adds hours to the schedule that's already full. Think about your week right now. You've got a job taking 40, 50, maybe 60 hours a week when you count the commute. You've got family, obligations, a life, maybe activities. Where does this side hustle fit in? And even if you can make it fit, you're still trading your time for money. The minute you stop working, the income stops. That's not freedom, that's a second job. Cutting expenses has a floor. I'm not against being smart with your money at all, but you can only cut so far before you're just making yourself miserable and you still haven't built anything. Cutting expenses doesn't create income. It just slows down how fast you're falling behind. Index funds and traditional investments work, and I'm not telling you to stop contributing to yours, but they work on a timeline. If you're 40, 45, and you're starting now, the math on a traditional portfolio getting you to full income replacement is a long story. You're looking at decades, not years. So why does real estate work differently? Because real estate doesn't just pay you one way. It doesn't have to come from owning a rental long term at all. There are a lot of ways to generate income from real estate, and the deal in front of you decides which one fits. It can be a finder's fee where you connect a buyer and a seller and you get paid for it. It can be an assignment fee where you put a property under contract and hand the contract off to another investor for a fee. It can be a wholesale deal. Similar idea, you're moving contracts without ever owning the property. It can be a rehab, you buy, fix, and sell. It can be a flip. It can be a rental that does pay you every month. It could be a short-term rental, depending on your market. It can even be a creative financing deal, where the terms you negotiate are what create the income. These require you to know how to find and structure a deal. That's the part most people never get taught. Here's something nobody tells you when you're just getting started. When one of these quick turn deals pays off, whether it's a finder's fee, an assignment fee, or a flip, what you do with that money next is just as important as making it in the first place. Don't spend all of it. Don't just let it sit there either. Put it back into your real estate fund. I'd say at least 70 to 75% of it every single time. Here's why that matters. That fund becomes your future financing plan. When a seller financing deal comes along, the kind that builds long-term wealth through equity and cash flow, sellers sometimes want some cash at closing. If you've been feeding that fund every time a quick deal pays off, you've got it. You're not scrambling, you're not passing on a good deal because the timing's wrong. Now, why not put all of it back in? Well, simple, because you're working hard. You've got a regular job and now you're working deals on top of it. That's real effort. And you should get something out of it besides a bigger fund balance. Of course, that's your choice, but that's my take. So take the other 25 to 30% and use it. Take your family on a trip, reward yourself for the work you're putting in. You're still building wealth with the majority of that money, but you're also living a little along the way instead of waiting until some finish line down the road to enjoy any of it. That's the balance. Most of the money builds your future. Some of it lets you actually feel the difference right now. Here's where a lot of people get this wrong before they even start. They think they need an empire, 50 doors, a full-time crew, a logo on a truck. And I get why they think that, because that's what most of the gurus talk about and teach. They show you the end result, the portfolio, the passive income graphic, the I own 200 units flex. Nobody's showing you deal one. Nobody's showing you deal two. They skip straight to the finish line and let you assume that's where you start. You don't need an empire. You need a small number of deals that actually pass my deal filter system. Deals you bought right. Say that back to yourself because it does matter. Not deals you bought, deals you bought right. Here's a mistake I see over and over. Someone buys something instead of buying right, and those aren't the same thing. Buying something feels like progress. You did it. You're an investor now. You own a property or you closed a deal. But if you bought it wrong, if the numbers didn't actually work, if you overpaid or the cash flow isn't there, that deal isn't moving you toward your number. It's sitting there costing you. The deal filter system is what keeps you from making that mistake. It means you run the numbers before you fall in love with anything. You know your filter before you start looking. What does this deal need to produce to move me closer to my number? What's the most I can pay and still have it work? If it doesn't go the way I planned, what's my way out? Those aren't complicated questions, but for most first-time investors, they never ask them before they buy. They find something that looks good, they get excited, and they buy on how it feels instead of what the numbers say. That's how you end up with a deal that costs you money instead of making you money. The filter comes first, every single time, no exceptions. I built something called the Before You Quit checklist. It walks you through what exactly needs to be true as you plan your departure, not just financially, but in how you're running things. How many deals do you need? What's your cash flow number? What's your cushion like? What does that need to be? Some call them reserves, but it's your cushion. It's free, it's in the description below, and it'll keep you from moving on before you're actually ready. So let's put this all together and look at what actually happens when you follow my deal filter system, the same one we've been walking through. Right now, your job has one job of its own. It pays your bills while you build. That's it. It's not the enemy here. It's what keeps the lights on. It keeps you from making desperate decisions while you're still getting started. Think of it as your runway, not your ceiling. Here's what that timeline actually looks like. You start by knowing your number, not your salary, your real number, the one we talked about earlier. Then you learn the deal filter system. What makes a deal worth doing? What numbers tell you yes, and what numbers tell you to walk away? You do this work before you ever make an offer on anything. Then you find your first deal and you run it through the filter. If it passes, you move on. If it doesn't, you let it go. No emotion attached. The numbers are what tell you yes or no. That first deal pays you somehow. Maybe it's a wholesale fee. Maybe it's an assignment fee. Whatever it is. Most of it goes back into your fund, and some of it, remember, goes towards something you actually enjoy. Then you do it again. Each deal gets you closer to your number, and your fund keeps growing behind you. At some point, and this is different for everyone depending on the market and how aggressively you're moving, the income from your deal starts closing in on your number. You're not there yet, but you can see it from where you're standing. That's when the checklist matters the most. What's still missing? What needs to be true before you can actually make the move? You're not guessing anymore. You're checking boxes. And then one day, the income crosses that number. What your deals are bringing in covers what the job was covering. That's when you give your notice. Not dramatically, not because you're frustrated and you walked out on a Tuesday. On your own terms, when the math says you're ready. Nobody at work has to know until it doesn't matter anymore. That's the real exit. Not quitting and hoping it works out. Building it deal by deal with the deal filter system behind you until the income you created is bigger than the income you're walking away from. I've attached a link in the description below and in the comments for my free Before You Quit checklist. Grab it, take a look, and get started. And as Beverly Sills said, you may be disappointed if you fail, but you're doomed if you don't try. Come back here next week for another lesson on how to finance real estate deals in any situation, even with no cash. I'll see you then. Thank you for watching.